then we get to this little object that nobody knows anything about. And so this is the piece Kryptos, my most infamous work, the Energizer Bunny of artworks, never ceases to go away. I still get letters in the mail constantly from people who are fans or just basically insane. And so cryptography has a very special, to be a cryptography has a very special kind of mind. Sorry, Ed. Ed Scheid is here, a fellow who helped me and collaborated with me on the code for this. But it does seem to, a great number of people who are interested in cryptography, I've learned over the 20 years since I've done this piece, are walking a very fine line between sanity, lucidity, and whatever it takes. You know, the beautiful mind. There are people that look at this screen and can see all of these words magically appear and, you know, come out as if they're, you know, glowing in the dark. And that's not cryptography. That's not code breaking. This piece won't be cracked like that. But that doesn't dissuade these people from leaving their wives, leaving their jobs, sleeping in their cars, flying all over the world, sending me letters, sending me hate mail, you name it, it never ends, and it just continues on and on and on, and until you get to the nadir, like having popular fiction writers think about your work and this kind of business. And so, but this was Kryptos, and Kryptos was an interesting piece. It took me 2.5 years to do, and I learned a tremendous amount about the CIA, and maybe things I don't really want to know, but it's been very helpful. Let's just say the piece I did for CIA, I think, has helped me get through the later works, which were a little bit on the edge of legality. Okay, so you haven't seen those yet, but we're moving along. So when I was at CIA headquarters, I went down way behind where I was building my sculpture, and I was driving around, and I noticed a huge dumpster. In the ceiling above the dumpster, there was about a foot-wide tube that was continually raining down paper pulp. So in every office of the agency, people would, at the end of the day, they take their secret documents and they put them in a little bag, they put them down a chute in their office like the laundry chute. They would go into a hammer mill, which pounded it into paper pulp, but didn't get quite everything. So basically I saw this ore, you know, this infinite amount of ore sitting down there, and so I said, aha. So basically, insanely, the next day I came with my car. I said, if I'm going to do it, I got to see if I can make art out of it. So I just drove down there, had 5-gallon pails in the back of my car, jumped out of my car, went over there, filled the pails up, threw them in the back of my car, raced out through the gates, fully expecting those things to pop up right at the main entrance, and they never did, and I escaped. I felt great. So I went back to the studio, I started making things out of the paper pulp, and it actually was a really wonderful material to work with. There's one in the gallery now. It is fairly long-lasting. It doesn't seem to fade. They use high-quality paper. But there are other things in here, which was interesting. There are plastic images of jets on the runway. There are images of Iraq. These pieces were garnered from the agency in 1991, right around the beginning of the Gulf War. And so a lot of the work I did early on using this paper pulp was related to the Gulf War. This, though, is not, and it is related to something entirely different. This is the first piece I made, and it was after I successfully built this piece, which is also in the gallery, the very first piece. This is paper pulp, but on the outside it was lined with chicken wire, and then I just packed the pulp in there, and then I pressed letters on the inside, so you have to peer through this crack to read a secret code that's on the inside. This piece is called Comigmalo. A comigmalo is that chimney on the top of the Vatican through which all those votes pass after they've been burned up. The little puff of smoke comes out, and they vote it on a pope. That's the comigmalo. So I figured there are all these secrets inside such a thing. Not that I'm a religious person, but I just thought the choice of objects was nice. And so this was the first piece. I said, aha, let's make a deal. William Webster, who was then the director of CIA. And I'll tell you what, Bill, I will give you the secret to Kryptos if you give me access to this paper pulp. Now, in typical CIA fashion, I'm not that stupid, so basically, maybe I gave it to Bill, maybe I didn't give it to Bill. But I got the paper pulp, that's all that really mattered. So I got 8,000 pounds of wet paper. What do you do with it? You got to dry it out, otherwise it gets really moldy fast. So I rented a warehouse, an 8,000 square foot warehouse, and basically covered the entire ground with paper pulp and raked it every day for 4 months until it dried out. Then I put it in bags, took it to my studio in Northeast Washington, and stored it there for 20 years and never used it. I used it some to build these pieces like the one you just saw, and then this installation. This installation basically is what I call is sort of a creation of a code room. In the basements of most U.S. embassies around the world and most foreign embassies where we live now in D.C., there are rooms in the bowels of the places they are. So, and the outsides of the rooms are covered with copper screen to remove RF radiation, which might escape from the room or might enter the room. In addition to that, it cancels out microwave radiation and things like this. So these pieces are covered with copper. There are coded sections on the inside. One side's in Russian, one side's in Arabic. They discuss covert operations carried out against the Soviet Union and covert operations carried out in Iraq. And they're sitting on a nice red hot base made out of red sandstone, or sort of, harking back to the incendiary nature of the material. So in addition to that, I did a whole series of coded works. So all through the 1990s, I did works based on codes and various things. This was what I called it's a media filter. Okay, so somewhere in your brain, there is this little filter in there that can filter out things like this seat. It filters out bad things you don't want to think about. It filters out all sorts of stuff. But those filters get worn out, right? You get a hole in it, right? And so this particular filter might be the Russian word for shadow or secret or deceit or deception or any of those things. So these words are basically, so this is the deceit filter that's been used and thrown out. Just like the pleated filter in your furnace. That's all this is. This was the one in your head and it filtered out. This is a piece that I did. This is a piece of stainless steel, and it's etched all the way through with letters. And it's in French, and the whole smoke and mirrors thing, right? So this is basically a mirror casting shadows and reflections. Down here it's the opposite of what it is up here. And so this is ombre, which is shadow, etc. And this is a piece that I did, a small piece. And when I concluded doing those, I started making bigger ones. So basically, when I did the CIA piece, I had some of the pieces sitting in my studio. I started rearranging them and figured, let's see, the old magic lantern trick. And so basically, I decided to do a series of pieces based on coding systems. So one half of this cylinder is a code. The other half is a chart for deciphering it, much like the piece at CIA. This is like I did in 1992. There's only one English word, Medusa. I thought it was interesting, Medusa and then USA. So anyway, Medusa was the only word in there, and basically you're supposed to decipher this piece. This piece has become public art, and now it's at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, between the art department and the, I think it's the broadcasting department. Again, another piece which has helped me get by. So this is a piece I did a couple of years ago. It's ironic because what this building is, this is the building at Louisiana State University, Department of Energy, Coast, and Environment. Now you guys remember the oil spill, right? That small oil spill. Well, all the great heads and all the minds are in this building trying to discern how they're going to fix and plug that oil leak in the Gulf of Mexico. And so this is in front of their building. So what the text is that I chose, and I choose different texts, and the texts that I use are all in the languages of their time, which means if somebody spoke something and wrote it down in Greek, then I present it in Greek. So these cylinders on either side of this building and project on the building are projecting texts from eyewitnesses to the largest natural oil spills on record, produced only by nature, not by man. So basically, all these are naturally produced oil spills from ships sailing through the Santa Barbara Channel, and as far as you could see, the sea was on fire, and there were volcanoes coming out of Santa Barbara, volcanoes of oil pouring into the Santa Barbara Channel. Of course, all that's been cleaned up, but, Gulf of Mexico seems to be still a problem. But I thought that kind of treatment for this kind of public project was important. This piece is for the University of Houston. It's a new library called the M.D. Anderson Library. And basically, what do students have on their mind most of the time? relationships, right? Girlfriends, all this kind of business. So what I did for text on these, in all the different languages, from Ovid to Milan Kundera to a whole variety of people. This piece was called A, comma, A. So every sentence and every series of sentences in here is a series of commas. So they're very short little pieces about relationships in about 15 different languages. And so this piece is actually sitting on a large black stone line, as if it's a comma. So if you look at it from up here, this is where all the hoity-toity graduate students can look over the edge down at this, and it looks like a comma on a line of text. This is a piece that I did after that, another public piece. This is at MIT in Boston. And basically what this is a projection. There's a white marble disc inlaid into the floor, the paving of the entrance to the microbiology department. So I made a macro/microbiological installation. So this is a white marble disc, but there's a very powerful projector in the ceiling called a Pani projector. It's made in Austria, $60,000 unit, right? As part of the commission, I got the unit. I convinced the scientists to give me a series of slides and to continue changing the slides depending on what they're working on at any given time upstairs. So basically, these are all images from electron microscopes and microscopic images of what they were working on at a given time. That's the micro part. The macro part was a standard wall made out of blocks of limestone. That's the original wall. So I had that wall transformed into split layers, like fossil layers of limestone under the earth. Then they have a line of petrified seabed as a fossil, and then the wall continues. And in an 80-foot-long wall, the wall slowly transforms back into cut limestone blocks like you'd see in any archaeological or any geological formation. So micro